Okay, this is the Dynam ME262. I got it stock a couple days ago. I had a maiden flight. I wasn't exactly happy with the maiden flight. I had to trim it completely down. The thing wanted to just keep climbing and almost climbing out of control. It wanted to rotate around. Right off the bat, it almost tip stalled because it wanted to take off so fast. I didn't have the ground speed up enough. It took off, almost landed into a fence. I managed to get control of it. And as much playing around with it as I could do, it didn't want to get its nose down. It just wanted to keep climbing, and basically I had to keep constant pressure on the elevator in the down position to try to get to have level flight. So I've got to mess around with it. But anyways, just to show you what I've got, I've seen a lot of unboxing videos, and this is a video that shows you what's on the inside. So I got my battery here. I personally am running a 5,000 milliamp 4-cell 25C battery. That's not what comes stock. I think there's 4,000 milliamp 4-cell, but anyways, that's the battery I'm running. It hooks in right into the nose with a piece of Velcro. I've actually filled this nose cavity around the battery with some air drying cement in hopes that it will add some weight, because I think maybe it's a little tail heavy. That's why it took off. Only time will tell. I haven't had a chance to go fly it again just because of the weather, so only time will tell. Here's my ESCs. They're sitting in the harness right here, my 260 amp ESCs. I've got my my receiver here. This is a Spectrum AR500 receiver. I changed out the stock Y harnesses for the power, for the ailerons, and for the landing gear. I thought it was pretty chintzy. I'll see if I can show you a video of what it looks like. I switched it with a regular Y harness in hopes that it helps out. I had some problem with landing gear not going in sync with the rudder, the nose wheel, so I had to switch it around. I switched it around again, and anyways, cut a long story short, it's back to the way it was, and it seems to be working quite fine now, although I did have some issues with it, just so you know. Okay, so here's what has happened here. I found that these wheels have way too much play in them. This one's not so bad. I kind of eliminated a little bit. I had to cut out a little notch here because this little nut on the side was catching underneath. I had a little bit of play in here, and if I wasn't paying attention, it would catch underneath, and then the retract wouldn't actually come out. It's all hollow under here. There's a little lip that this catches on. So all I did was I cut out a little notch, as you can see, and now it comes out. The other thing is inside here, you can't see it, but there's actually a hole in here that runs this whole length, and then my exit hole is here. This is for ventilation over my ESCs. Like I said, I've only had one flight on it, and I wasn't going full power just because of the fact that I was having problems with the stabilization, pitching up. And so anyways, when I brought it down for landing, I felt it. Yes, it was a little warm, but again, I wasn't running the batteries hard. So I would imagine when I'm running it hard, once I get the stabilization issue out, it's going to be a lot warmer. I got some damage on here. That's just from a rough landing, not a big deal. I can put some paint on there if I wanted to. My ailerons I found were a little... I need to be a little bit more sensitive, so I put them on the most extreme setting over here in hopes that the next flight will work out quite well as far as the aileron is concerned. And one last thing I want to touch on, I've read online, or some people are telling me online, that these control rods, as they come out the back end going into your tail section, this might be giving me some problems with the CG. After I had some problems with trying to center this thing, or try to get it to come down. I couldn't figure out why. I went and checked my CG. I'm running at about 115 millimeters from the leading edge, which isn't that bad, but I've been told that people are running them at 110. I tried to make it at 110 with all that extra weight, plus I put a roll of dimes on here, and only when I put that roll of dimes on there did I get to middle out. So I took that off. I said I don't want to add any more weight. And what I've done over here, if you can actually see, you probably can't because of the shadow. Anyways, there's quite a bit of play on these rods, and when you push down on it, because they aren't hollow tubes, well, this is a tube here, but the actual metal rod itself is not a hollow tube, it basically bows out, and you can see it here. It'll just bow out. So what I've done is I've hot glued it down, and in hopes that that will helped me as far as my CG. Okay, so again, what I've done is I've hot glued these control cables. I'm going to call them cables. They're not really hollow tubes, they're rods. Hot glued these rods down to the tail section and down to the rudder, and in hopes that I've been told that will bring your CG to something that is retracting a little bit back towards your trailing edge, something that's a little bit more realistic. Because like I said, I mean, to try to get it to that 110, I was adding all kinds of weight up nose. I still have most of that weight in there. Plus then I had to add that roll of dimes, and it wasn't fun. If you look inside, you can kind of see there's a lot of hollow spots in here, and that's where I've added the weight. All the weight's in there. And that's of course where the battery sits. And I'm only, like I said, running a 4-cell, but honestly the thing took off and it just kept climbing like crazy. I could just barely keep control over it. There is a video of it online. I just on YouTube. I can't remember where it is. I'll have to find it and then I'll post it. But anyways, other than those issues, oh, then one last thing about that tail wheel. Oh shit, this is kind of about that tail wheel, or sorry, your nose wheel. There's a little metal linkage in there. It actually came off. It wasn't on in the first place. So what was happening is when I was turning it left and turning it right, this was just sliding up and down on the rod. So I had no control over my my nose wheel. I've since then disconnected it here, pulled it out, reset it in this little groove, bent the wire a little bit, reset it in the groove, and put some hot glue on there, and rebolted it back into place, screwed it back into place. And the one flight I had on it, it seems to work. But before I had no control, and I mean no control on it. And you can kind of see that hole I was talking about before I've hollowed out, so you can get some airflow over the ESC. I'll report back on there once I've had another flight and run the battery hard. Thank you.